thinking back of some of the difficult seasons that I've gone through, what she has done well is knowing when to give me the space to work through my own emotions, but also when to come back in and say, how am I dealing with it? Is there anything that she can do or help?
Welcome to the Connect to Marriage podcast. I'm June and I'm your host for this episode. In each episode of the Connect to podcast, we'll be tackling questions that couples ask about marriage, communication, conflict, and so much more. We hope you keep tuning in to learn with us as you grow closer, deeper, and stronger in your marriage. If you're new to us, do subscribe to our Connect to podcast on your podcast platform. We believe you'll discover interesting topics and helpful conversations. Every marriage will go through seasons of stress, disappointment, loss, or uncertainty. In those moments, the support of a loving spouse can make a world of difference. But knowing how to help isn't always easy. In this episode, we explore practical ways to support our spouse during difficult times, offering comfort and strength without trying to fix everything. To help us unpack how couples may weather life's challenges together, I'm really happy to welcome Rodney and Leanne back into the studio again. Rodney and Leanne, thanks for joining us again. Would you like to start us off by sharing another fun fact about yourselves?
Fun fact. I live with people who can sing. My husband and my daughter sing well, but I can't sing well. So actually, I always dream of myself to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh!
I love that one day. I do not know how to get there. But so
You can start here.
When I see things that is not so good, not so perfect, things that's getting so awkward, I would think of how to turn it into fun and see it in another perspective.
Wow, that's really interesting.
I normally like to find ways to lighten it. So the closet stand-up comedian you're making, hopefully.
Wow. So Rodney, your superpower is you will break into song and then she will break into a comedy.
So Leanne said she's a closet comedian, whereas I think for me, I'm a closet rocker. So singing like rock songs.
Right.
Because I think this was... Probably I got this when I was studying overseas in Australia, and in Australia they really love their rock songs, and so you can't run away from it. It's everywhere, and because I was staying in a boarding house, the boys all around me were all playing their rock songs, and I think over time I started enjoying to sing rock songs too. Well, so I think our daughter is also a little bit of a closet rocker, so she takes after me in that respect. So we do enjoy singing rock songs together. I think that's a really fun, but I think sometimes it gets too much for Leanne, like it's too much rock for her.
It's okay. I will just go on.
Or she'll break into some kind of comedy for herself to see the lighthearted part of this.
Yes.
Yeah, so wonderful to have you both here again. I think we really enjoyed the first episode where you talked about building your fun and friendship within the marriage. So this topic is slightly heavier, perhaps. To start us off, do you think you could share a little bit about why some people may find it hard to share their struggles with their spouse?
I think finding it hard when life gets hard is when we feel that we don't want to be judged, and we're afraid that when we are honest, our spouse will judge us or someone in the family will judge us. So that could be one of the very basic reasons.
Afraid of being judged, right?
Yeah, I think speaking from the perspective of a man, for men, sharing struggles is one of the things that I think we struggle with quite a lot, because we don't want to be seen as unable to solve our own problems or issues that we come across. We want to be seen by others, including, whether it's family or friends, as like being resourceful, being capable, being resilient. But sometimes some struggles that we go through really do bring us to the end of our limits, and whatever resilience we may have may not be sufficient. And I think that's when we feel like, how do we get through this? So for men, we often retreat to our caves. So every man has their cave of sorts. We tend to retreat to our caves and keep quiet and just not really want to share, because we don't want to let on that we are really not able to deal with what we're going through at that point in time.
Yeah, none of us want to appear incompetent or just unable, right, to take care of our own problems and issues. And you're very real there, Rodney, to share that for men, perhaps this even more scary. The thought that, oh, I must be somehow so incompetent or so weak that I can't deal with this issue. And it's so easy to then just retreat. I think I've seen it with the men in my house, So it's very real. It's not something unfamiliar. I wonder when one spouse is going through such a tough time and is kind of exhibiting these signs of retreating into their space, what does supportive love then look like?
It's a very big or very profound word, supportive love. Love is love. Love is being there, being present. Love is being what we do normally, regular, that we don't change. And love is giving space or holding the space. Allow them to process their feelings or going through the grief. Holding the space is, I'm here and take your time.
That's something that I really appreciate from Leanne. I think thinking back of some of the difficult seasons that I've gone through, what she has done well is knowing when to give me the space to work through my own emotions, but also when to come back in and say, how am I dealing with it? Is there anything that she can do or help? And I know, of course, that she's always praying for me. And that gives me a lot of strength, a lot of support, knowing that she's doing that. Even though in the immediate moment, not a lot can be done to resolve the issue or the worry that, I may be going through at that time. But I think just knowing that, Leanne is there with me and I'm not on my own makes such a big difference.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that, just being present and holding that space for your spouse can make such a difference. And that this space doesn't mean that you're always sort of pushing for an answer or you're always asking like, how are you doing? Do you want to talk about this? Because that can be perceived as a little bit intrusive as well. But being able to be present without necessarily pushing your way through or finding a quick fix for this so that your spouse can get out of that mode, right? That zone of what looks from the outside as retreating.
Yeah. Over the years, we've learned to gradually understand each other better. I think knowing when to so-called come in and ask them how they are doing and when to kind of like hold back and let them continue to have their own time to work through. And of course, depending on the severity of the issue as well, right? Some things it's easier to come in and process together more regularly. Others, perhaps bigger, maybe more traumatic situations or deeper loss, that one needs a lot more space to be given to each other. And I think there's no like one size fits all, I suppose, but trying to understand and read each other's emotions as best as we know how. We don't always get it right, of course. Like all couples, probably a lot of times we didn't quite read each other's emotions correctly, and we probably said things or did things which didn't really help each other. But I think over the years...
we learned through hard lessons. And I felt that while learning the hard lessons, what is the lesson out of it? Like, we realized that we are so different. We process things differently, but we have expressed things differently because we both express in a very different love languages. So we have to be cautious about that space. Like, okay, we will not expect the other person to respond in the same way that pleases us. So I think if we expect how the person have the same way of processing certain things as us, I think that will cause a lot of frustrations, I felt.
I think that's a really good point because in the first episode, you guys mentioned that just by terms of love language that you speak or that you prefer, you can be very different, right? And so in a sense, when we are met with a difficult and challenging situation, it could well be that one spouse is very verbal and needs to like continuously talking through the problem and open to advice or open to just hearing as well. But for others, it might be the complete opposite where it's like, I'm not ready to talk about this. Please don't force me to. When you're coming from such different perspectives and different preferences, what is one way that, we might be able to bridge that might be helpful and not considered very intrusive or very frustrating for the spouse who's going through a hard time?
A lifetime of love and romance requires intentional effort and attention. Yet in times of busyness and with overwhelming priorities to tend to, our marriages can often take a back seat. No matter the state of your relationship today, we want to help you and your spouse thrive. Check out Connect 2, featuring specially created experiences and resources, our favorite selection of articles, top hits on our podcast, date ideas, conversation starters, and more to address the issues that are keeping you and your spouse apart, and to help you rekindle the joy of pursuing one another. Visit www.family.org.sg/connect2 today.
I think it's when we think that we can fix the other problem, when we felt frustrated that, hey, how come my advice is given and he's not taking my advice? And I started to feel offended. And that's where you go down to a big rabbit hole that is never ending in these own frustrations. It will just create more problem on the existing problem that the person is already processing, grieving, and trying to get hold of his thoughts or her thoughts. Yeah. So I think we learn through hard lesson that we give that pause. That pause, we respect that pause. Either it's cave, it's either it's walk, it's either whatever space that we find. I think that pause will lead to a space of respect for each other.
I think depending on what the situation is, sometimes there may be a solution or way to resolve the situation, right? It may not be the right time to act on it yet. I think because before we can act on that solution, we need to go through or process our own feelings first. And I think that's where for me, speaking for myself, I've learned to hold back on trying to act out the solution. Let's say Leanne's going through that situation and to give her that space to work through her own emotions first. Because as men, we generally like to just fix it on the spot. Fix it earlier, the better, so that we don't have to talk about it or deal with it anymore, right? Get it over and done with.
Yeah.
But I think that's often not the best way. I've learned that I need to give Leanne that space to work through it, her emotions first, and then at a later time to talk about what might be a better way to deal with the situation. But of course, there are other situations where there's no real immediate solutions that we can think of, or maybe the solution needs a lot more steps to get to that. I think that's where we realize we just have to continue to be with one another, stay connected in the sense of being present for each other, hearing each other out, working through the emotions, even if it's the negative as parts of the emotions together as much as possible, right? And I know that's not always easy for couples. I think this is where we get into the uncomfortable space, right? Because there's no solution. We can't think of what to do next. There was a time Leah and I went through a very deeply personal loss in our family, and there was really nothing we could do for many months other than just be there, sit with one another, oftentimes not saying anything to each other, but just being there, being present, praying for each other, and just continue to let each other know that we are still here for one another. Yes, we have been deeply affected by this loss, but life is not over. There's still hope. There's still something we can look forward to.
That's wonderfully said, Rodney. And I heard you say that it's important to deal with the emotions first, to hold space for the emotions first and not rush into trying to problem solve. And I think as Singaporeans, we love solving problems. Maybe it's all the math problems that we were taught to solve, at P6. But, we just love solving problems, and not just the men, right? I'm sure many women too. But it's so important to give space for the emotions, because I think we've all personally felt when we have a big problem and somebody tries to give us an easy fix-it solution, we feel so upset and just at a loss for words. It's almost saying that you mean it was so easy and I couldn't just solve this immediately? Then why did I have to talk to you? Right? It really brings home the importance of caring for the emotions, and the emotions cannot be so-called fixed or plastered with a band-aid, and if we try to do that, it usually comes spilling out through other ways and other forms of acting out, right, in a sense. And it also brought to mind what you guys shared about in the first episode about being present and connecting and listening to each other. And that's really where the support comes through, right? So if you are already doing that on a regular basis when things are relatively stress-free or stress in the normal way or normal levels of stress, then it's all the more important, and at least you're built on that, right? To continue doing that when things are difficult.
Yes, it definitely helps. Yeah, if you have that cadence or that practice of doing that in a less stressful time, then it's easier to do that when you come across a more stressful situation. But I think sometimes we learned it the other way around. We learned through the hard way of how we had to do that, how that was important, and how that was needed to restore that hope with one another. So I wish we had learnt it in more stress-light moments. That would have been better.
Life hard lesson is life hard lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, but thanks for being so candid to share it so that our listeners will hopefully not need to go through the hard lessons, right? And they can remember to really put that into practice. Thank you for sharing those experiences and tips, right, arising from your own difficult seasons of loss. As we transit to the part of our podcast where we typically address a frequently asked question that couples have, today's question happens to come from a wife who says, "My husband was recently retrenched at work and he's been quiet and withdrawn of late." Sounds familiar. I tried to ask him how he feels, but he just says he's okay and tells me not to worry. But I can't help worrying. What else can I do to support him?
This question sounds very real in our family. It feels home because we felt that it's a very common situation where men likes to look good, look brave, look like they're all in control. But when something is not quite right in workplace, the feeling really brings back home. And I'm thankful that Rodney is honest in his feeling and how he feels when things won't go right in the workplace. So everyone in the family is aware and know, and we will come together to pray about it. And we fully understand that it's also part of our journey to journey along in this hardship in the workplace. So it's part of the family journey together. We always affirm that we are here, and that perhaps will give him comfort that our presence.
Yeah, I think what I also appreciate, this is something that in a way I've been very similar to the season that I'm currently navigating, is that Leanne will remind me of God's faithfulness to us over the years. I think when she reminds me of that, restores that kind of trust, even though it seems hard or seems unlikely in the current situation. And I think that helps me to recenter, helps me to feel definitely more positive, more thankful for how things have been going so far. So the different ways that what Leanne has said about being present, knowing what I'm going through, but not putting more pressure on me, not judging like, oh, why couldn't you have done it better? Why did you find yourself in that situation? Not having that kind of judgmental criticisms, I think that has helped. I think just knowing that we are in this together, she's with me, I think that is a tremendous support and encouragement.
Thanks for being so open about your current season, Rodney as well as Leanne. I'm hearing that it's so important, right? You show up as a family, right? And it's not just, hey, how did you get into this situation, which sort of calls upon that sense of judgment or that sense of blame, which really doesn't help the already stressful situation, right? That you're in. And I'm hearing also that your shared faith, and the values that you hold really help to support you and undergird you even as you walk through this tough time. So thank you so much for sharing, from your very real situation as well. Rodney and Leanne, before we let you go for the second time, do you have any last words of advice, for our listeners who might be going through tough times that may not seem to have a easy or straightforward solution?
As Rodney mentioned, I think we're very thankful how God has provided so far in this journey of marriage together. And perhaps it's just this season that we are going through that is not easy, but we set time to thank God for what we had and we are having. And we're always conscious that we be present, give each other the space when we needed to hold the space for the person to process. Remind each other that we are here and stop doing what we keep doing, the fun, the small things, the big things. But even though it's a tough time, we have to do life as normal.
For me, I think it would be continue to persevere even in the most difficult seasons. Continue to be there for each other for your spouse and continue to believe in each other. What I mean by that is believing that if we work through this together and don't let that situation break us or tear us apart, then no matter how dark that situation, that night is, there will be a better way. The light will come, right? The next day. I mean, may not be literally the next day, but the light will come as we continue to hold fast together and not let that situation break us. But of course, how we don't break is by continuing to affirm one another, encouraging each other.
Affirm and encourage and continue to be there for each other, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and to really believe in each other. And because sometimes when situations happen, we very quickly lose that sense of confidence in ourselves.
Correct.
Thanks so much, Rodney and Leanne, for being so real and for providing insights and helpful tips that are really from your heart, right, and your life story. So it's truly heartfelt. In each podcast, we end off with a short couple challenge for couples to do with each other. So if you're listening to this podcast with your spouse, here is your challenge for this week. Set aside just 10 minutes of your time and ask each other what helps you feel most supported when you are going through a tough time. So remember to do that. And we really hope that you found today's episode helpful and encouraging. As always, do remember to share it with a friend who might benefit from it as well. Thank you for tuning in, and remember to continually make an effort to make your marriage a safe haven for your spouse.